The uncertainty in West Asia and sporadic attacks by both America and Iran has once again put the world on an edge after just days of delicate ceasefire. But the ramifications are also being felt by American citizens, at least according to the latest Reuters Ipsos poll. The latest survey from this past weekend suggests that 79% Americans believe the Iran war will go on for an extended period of time. Now, this number is up from 69% in late March this year. Only 18% Americans believe that it will end in a few weeks. Only 37% of Americans polled approve of the latest U.S. strikes against Iran, while 58% disapprove of it. Meanwhile, when it comes to domestic ramifications, 60% Americans feel that gas prices will get worse after a year. Only 15% feel it will get better, while 16% feel that it will stay the same. Now, this poll, remember, has been conducted before the U.S. president's statement on exercising control over the Strait of Hormuz and charging 20% fee for safe navigation. Donald Trump on Monday this week positioned America as the guardian of the maritime passage and announced a fresh naval blockade on Iran. Iran has been quick to respond to Trump's statement. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was quick to use Trump's own words to mock him and legitimize Iran's position as the guardian of the Strait. But Abbas Araghchi also said in his statement that Iran will be rational in its fee charge, saying, and I quote him, 20% is, of course, too much. But for Americans back home, remember, the conversation is not just about the war in West Asia. It is about the upcoming midterm election, 2 years after Donald Trump won the presidency on the promise of better economic conditions and no American involvement in the endless wars. Between those campaign promises in 2024 and the reality of 2026, a lot has clearly changed for American politics and its people. Let me introduce my guest on the show tonight. Giorgio Cafiero, professor at the Georgetown University and CEO Gulf State Analytics, is joining us live on the broadcast from Washington, D.C. Giorgio, good evening. Welcome to WION. Good to have you back on the show. Can I start by asking you how you see these numbers? American citizens increasingly getting very cynical and pessimistic about how Donald Trump, their president, is approaching this entire war at the moment.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Always good to be your guest. You know, this conflict is clearly one that is not coming to an end. We don't know exactly when it's going to wind down, but it seems as though the U.S. is caught in this Iranian trap of escalation. And this is not popular in the United States, I think, really as a consequence of the wars that took place after 9/11, so-called war on terror that brought the United States into these quagmires in Iraq and Afghanistan. The American public, by and large, is very skeptical about arguments that it is in the U.S. national interest to enter or start these protracted conflicts in West Asia. And we generally, we definitely know that the vast majority of Americans really saw this war that the U.S. and Israel carried out against Iran in late February as a war of choice, not one that was necessary for the vital U.S. national security interests. And as it is going to, well, it seems to clearly be continuing, not really with any end in sight. And I think many Americans are very worried about the economic consequences of this war's continuation.
That's right, Giorgio. And, you know, that is what I was coming to next, because the kind of promises that Donald Trump made during his presidential campaign included no wars, but it also had a lot of emphasis on cost of living and, you know, how the shelves there, the products on the shelves at markets will cost much lesser for American citizens. The midterms are approaching. Have the Democrats been able to convince American citizens that the Republicans and the Trump administration have not done well on those promises? In fact, on the contrary, prices have increased because of the wars?
Well, without making predictions about how these races in November are going to result, I think we can definitely say that the American-Israeli war on Iran is one that will certainly hurt the Republicans who have been supportive of Trump's war, which certainly includes the vast majority of Republicans, even though there have been some notable exceptions. I think the key question would be is if the Trump administration is able to wind down this conflict quickly, which I do not expect, but if that were to happen, I think that could certainly limit the political damage come November. But I agree with the majority of Americans whom you cited at the beginning of your program. I do not expect this conflict to wind down anytime soon. I think probably for many weeks, many months ahead, the war is going to be continuing in one form or another. And I do think that Republicans who have been supportive of this war will be paying a price in November.
All right, so we'll have to wait and see how this really goes for both the Republicans and the Democrats in November. Giorgio, I'll leave it here. Thanks very much for joining us at the moment.
Thank you.